And we realise that we have a few weeks to go to those.
Yes. Yes.
A few more practices of what.
Every time the rest is fine, they jingle bells. Yeah.
It's very difficult talking about. Things, those things that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think they were playing the right things.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll make a start. Just before we open the meeting, can I just ask any members or officers in physical attendance with an electronic device to mute it to avoid feedback? And any remote participants, if they could please keep their camera and microphone off unless they wish to speak, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. This meeting is being live webcast and the recording stays on the council's website. Also, any speakers in the room, the camera obviously will pick you up, but you might need to come forward to the front of the room if you want to be seen clearly. It should pick up the audio from where you're sitting though, so just make sure you're speaking clearly, and it should be hopefully fine for that. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the hybrid Western Area Committee meeting, including any visiting members of the public that might be attending remotely. I'd like to advise that the following officers are in attendance from Swale Borough Council. We have Chief Executive Melissa Reid and our Policy and Engagement Officer Janet Clark. Also just like to welcome any of our nominees that have attended from our parish councils, and I can see obviously a few of you in the room this evening, so welcome to you in particular. And I think we have our other KCC councillor, Rich Lennon, online remotely as well, so welcome to him as well. Okay, so just a couple of things just before we get to the first agenda item. Just to remind that if anyone wishes to speak, if you could just raise your hands and I will invite you to speak in turn. Could you please state your name and the organisation you represent, just so it's easier for anyone at home to follow. Likewise, if anyone's attending remotely and they wish to speak, can you please make sure your microphone is muted until you're speaking, and then indicate in the IM if you wish to speak, and Janet will let me know from that. Any members of the public that are in attendance, please be aware that if you're using the IM inappropriately, you may be removed from the meeting. So agenda item 1 is the emergency evacuation procedure. So I'm just going to read the following out. Please be aware of the evacuation procedures to follow in the event of an emergency. There is no scheduled test of the fire alarm during this meeting. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly without collecting any of your possessions, using the doors signed as fire escapes, and assemble where directed. Wait instructions before re-entering the building. Should anyone require assistance in evacuating the building, please make the Swale Borough Council officers aware of any special needs so suitable arrangements may be made in the event of an emergency. Is there anyone that needs any help? Okay, all right. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 2. Any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Sarah Stephen and from parish councils from Buckchurch Parish Council.
Those on there, Project Clark, apologise, he's not leaving now, so he's staying.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 3, declarations of interest, with particular reference, I suppose, to the funding items which are in item 8. Is there any interest to declare? Take that as a no. Okay, agenda item 4, the minutes from the previous meeting. So can members please agree with the minutes from the meeting held on the 1st of September 2022, minutes numbers 261 to 271 as a correct record?
Very
much. Okay, so moving on to item 5, which is our matters arising. So this is obviously issues that we've been looking at in previous meetings. So we'll just go through them. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to read any updates, etc. Just kind of highlight some of our key points from them. So the first item on there is the Bredgar and Hartlett conservation area reviews. So really the main kind of takeaway from that is that the hoping that they can be commissioned in the new year. So we just need to confirm with the consultant if he has capacity, and we just need to confirm with the finance department if the consultant can be awarded the contract. So those are just the 2 admin parts. Speaking to Janet earlier, we're hoping to hear in early January, and Janet's going to just continue to chase that. The funding then hopefully, if that all goes ahead, will be able to be spent by our deadline of May 2023. And that's then our funding allocated to that. Then obviously that work will be done, but the actual conservation and design team have recommended that the officers present the review work to the Planning and Transport Working Group or Committee for adoption for the autumn 2023, just to workload and kind of time constraints within that area. Is there any kind of comments from that, Councillor Gilbert?
Yeah, as we commissioned this, I think it should come to this.
Take that back, definitely. Is there anyone else who'd like to make any comment on that? No? Okay. So if we move on to the second item then, in the matters arising, we've got the walking and cycling project. Just like to say a big thank you to Adrian Oliver and also the members that have put the work into that so far. You'll see in Appendix 1 the routes that have been proposed so far. See, we've got quite a few there that there's been a lot of work done on so far. You can see the update from Adrian kind of in Appendix 1. Is there any comments that we'd like to feedback or anything we'd like to mention on that one?
I think it's good.
Okay, thank you. All good so far. Okay, so we'll move on then to the item 3 on there. So that's the bus services. So we discussed that at the last area committee and resolved to see that we would send a letter to KCC, which we have done. You can see that in Appendix 2. They did come back to us requesting details of the bus routes, which we have then replied to outlining the major routes that were of concern for us. And we're still awaiting a reply. I think, Janet, it was 20
working days they would reply. We're very close to that now, so I will chase once we reach 20 days.
So hopefully we'll have a reply to report back at our next meeting. And as soon as we have that, I can share that with you earlier anyway. Also, yes.
Yeah, I think the one thing that has been announced from KCC since then was provision for funding for community groups to run their own bus services. And I think that was pretty widely circulated by King County Council. Obviously, I think the nearest one to here is run by Stockbury Parish Council. Goes into Hartlett, has circular routes to Hempstead Valley Shopping Centre, Maidstone, that sort of thing. But obviously there's the opportunity for other parishes, community organisations that maybe have lost their services, whether it be in the western area or out in the eastern area, for obviously parishes to get together or community groups to form their own bus service and provision of a minibus drivers, etc. So to get some form of public transport back. I say the opportunity is there, but it needs to be circulated.
Okay, thank you for that. We can obviously make sure that we put that into our minutes and see if we can push that out maybe with our parish council representations as well. Okay, item 4 was the brown tourism signs, and again we had a motion to send a letter to KCC with just outlining our disappointment with their response to that. We sent that, as you can see in Appendix 3, and we will have had a response to that to date. So if we move on to item 5, which is the refurbishment of King George's V toilet refurbishment. Again, the kind of key outline parts for that are it's looking to take place in the winter months. So hopefully at some point soon that will work will begin in King George's Park, where it's a bit quieter, obviously within the facilities there. And we'll have a further update in February. If any members have any comments on that or? Okay. Move on to the 26th. We've got the conservation issues, including ponds. We'll discuss this a bit later with agenda item 8, so we'll come back to that one. For item 7 on there, we have the donations to food bank services. So this was one of our funding allocations that we discussed at the previous meeting. And thank you to Janet for her work on this. So Swale Food Bank and the Bus Shelter Food Bank have both agreed to the conditions which we wanted, which was that it had to be allocated to residents within our area, within the Western area. And both have already been transferred their £5,000 that we allocated the last meeting. So we will have a monitoring report to see a bit more about how obviously that funding has been spent in February. So that's all progressing. Councillor Baldock.
You can just, when I be annotated to make it clear that each group has received 5,000. It reads 5,000 for both of them.
Yep, okay.
No problem. So moving on then, oh, sorry.
Sorry, the final talks about us getting into negotiations around the delivery of parcels. What's happened on that? Have they agreed?
Yes, they've both said that they've got the capacity to do that within their current day-to-day running anyway, so they're both agreed.
We annotate the outcome to show.
Yes.
Moving on to point 8. So this is again something we'll come back to in under agenda item 8. So I'm going to leave that for now. That's the alternative heating product. Point 9 was Rose Hill and Meads woodland management work plans. So we have had the funding transferred to the Rose Hill Woodlands Fence Group, and I think Council the Meads Woodland Fence Group are just setting up their bank details, aren't they? So
We had a bank account we went to, and then when we started doing the application, found out it was for charities only.
okay.
So it's a bit silly because to register the charity, you need a bank account. So that was
Bit of
changing, having to change over to what we would have to do, but that will have to be done.
Perfect.
Have you got some bank to do it then? We've got something, but I don't know.
The account, we were going to try Co-op, which was meant to be a good one, but then it was for charity, so the treasury that we've got looking into found out last week and see.
I'll find out who we are using.
Yeah, good.
Chair, yes, that's
Through the chair, our parish council uses Unity, which is an online bank, which is well set up for requiring 2 signatures to authorise a payment, and that's.
Thank you. Okay, if we move on to point 10, that was the heritage issues. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Councillor Button.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that Lloyds Bank are really good for bank accounts.
Thank you very much.
We've got a nature reserve one, and we've had other accounts with them. They're very good and they don't charge.
A few more options to look into. Brilliant, thank you. If we look at item 10, again, you have an appendix that's just outlining the updates on that. Try and find it for a second. So you can see the progress in terms of the conservation area reviews that have already been done. So Boddersham, Church Street, Boddersham Green, Milstead and Tunstall. Is there any comments or anything anyone would like to mention in regards to those?
Boddersham, Church and Millside and Tunstall were both advertised in the paper.
Good. All right then. So then the next part is our item of point 11 was the youth provision in the villages. Oh. Councillor Button, is your hand up from before? Or did you like to make another
It
comment?
is, sorry, I'll turn it off.
Just wanted to check. So the youth provision. So we again last meeting agreed the funding for Bogdale CIC, and that has been transferred. We'll have a report at February's meeting to see how that project is progressing. The other thing that we were going to do, I'm just going to hand over to Councillor Baldock, to speak about. So that was Appendix 5, and that was the feedback from KCC in terms of the Section 106 money. Anything you'd like to?
Thanks, Chair.
That's all right.
Yeah, so we did finally get this out. There is one discrepancy, but the land north of High Street, or the provision of use services by the county council within the vicinity of the development. I don't know what work has been done with the parish council on whether or not they can use that work, that money locally. Land of Wisers Lane obviously hasn't come through yet. Well, hasn't been allocated for spending yet. I was wondering what's happening with the Backchild one. It says that the amount is to be calculated and confirmed. That was specifically mentioned at Newhouse, because Newhouse Youth Centre isn't there anymore. 106 can be quite tricky if they're tied to something specific. I'm hoping that there will be some flexibility in negotiations on that. But yeah, the suggestion that we'd had that all the money was going elsewhere doesn't seem to be fallen out of it. But it would be interesting to know where the youth services money is actually going to be spent. The figure of payment has not been reached for several of these, but it would be useful for negotiations to say where that money is going, especially local parish councils, other parish councils being consulted as well. I'm not sure where the provision of additional youth services for the Sittingbourne area, Featherbed Lane, which is Bobbing Island, how that actually adds up, because something in the middle of Sittingbourne is not going to help people in Iwood and Bobbing. So a little bit more detail on that from KCC, and over time, I think it needs to be something that we work on, but it's just, just a bit more aware of what this money goes to and involve the parishes as it's spent.
And through you, this is a question to the chair of Newington Parish Council. I think that money was spent on the adult exercise equipment, recreation. Checking.
Yeah.
We can check. I was thinking for
Would it be worth us,
John.
as an area committee, contacting?
It's very noisy.
I'll wait for that, Roy.
It's very noisy.
it's efficient, you're a man.
Would it be worth us, as an area committee, writing to KCC, relevant people in KCC, asking for the outline of where that money from at least from the Newington one, because that's the one that's actually been paid to KCC so far, isn't it? Asking for an outline of where that's been spent, and we can feed that back for February. Members happy with that? Yep. Let me have that as an action then for that one.
And that'd be a letter from yourself.
Yeah. Okay, I think that was, let me just check. I think that was the end of the agenda item. Yeah, so that was the end of our matters arising. So we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is the public forum. Do we have any members of the public or remotely? So we'll move on then to item 7. So an opportunity for both Scarborough Council members and our parish councillors, if they would like to raise anything on behalf of the local residents' communities. So is there anything that would like to be raised? Very quick and quiet meeting. No? Oh, yeah, councillor Horton.
Just at the policy and resources committee yesterday evening, we authorised the publication of a draft budget, which doesn't have contained within it the opportunity for area committees to spend beyond May, because it was a closed deal for the duration of current administration. I think it would be wise to highlight that as part of the consultation to the parish councils that might already be thinking about how can we access this cash flow. So it might be worth just pointing that out to them.
Councillor Baldock and councillor.
Yeah, I was just gonna. It's just a matter of concern, really. The flooding that we're getting in the rural areas. The weather patterns have changed. I don't think that the our drainage system is up to coping. I mean, yeah, there's been a long-standing issue ever since the county took over from the districts. Districts didn't hand over a full set of details where the drains were. But I do think that, I think this is beyond KCC. I think that there needs to be there needs to be proper investment in our drainage, because we've got, in my patch, we've got houses that are relying on sandbags. There are areas that didn't previously get flooding that are now experiencing it. I think this needs to be raised with the government, but there needs to be a proper funding package for councils to deal with this drainage issue. It's a climate change issue. And if it isn't tackled and it continues to get worse at the rate it does, then you're looking at serious property damage to property. And it's not in our patch. Barwon got really badly damaged a few years ago. And these sort of events are becoming more frequent.
Is it, councillor Palmer, is that on the same point?
Basically,
Yeah, I was going to say, is it worth us, rather than it just being maybe from our area committee, to have a bit more weight to it? Is this something we should then refer back to one of the service committees to consider, to then, it's coming from Borough Council rather than just from us?
Yep, we do have that power to refer things to service committees.
Members, any views on that? Councillor Palmer?
Yeah, I mean, we've got what it's given, property landfill, so basically, we're not going to do it. It's not a list of property, there's no list on. It's not a diversion route, but it is used by people as a diversion route. And if the car goes through it, it won't get to cover in, and someone actually fell through it into a pot on. Now, they're quite adamant, the case seems to be not clear flooding, but next to this work report. It's purely down to the financial issue. And if, like, one other issue, which is a common, I've heard of, but not related to the flooding, so if
Yeah, I'll come back to you in a minute then. So shall we say then that we'll refer that back to the relevant committee at Borough Council and ask them to consider? And
Yeah, it's in the first instance that we refer to the committee chair,
Yeah.
and then
from there.
from there, yeah, go to the committee.
Okay, let's do that then. Councillor Wright, you wanted to make a comment as well?
Yeah, obviously, wear two hats, being a Tunstall Parish Councillor and a Kentland Councillor. But certainly residents have expressed concern as regards, and we're talking about local issues, around a speculative development on top of College Road in Sydney Ward. And the question that they are asking me is, I suppose, really one for Councillor Baldock and other councillors, where it actually stands with the local plan being not going through the process with the consultation dropped, not having a local plan that may not then defend a greenfield site on the edge of the town.
Maybe just, area. Yeah, I mean, obviously the local, Borough Council hasn't had a 5-year housing supply since February 2019. So not a lot has changed in the terms for those utility balance. That doesn't mean to say that any application is a developer's free for all. The situation remains the same. They have to show it's sustainable. The fact that we haven't got a local plan doesn't really have a great bearing on it, because the previous one expired, went out of date almost within 18 months. That's in this position. So we have to look at all applications on their merit. They have to show they're sustainable. We have won appeals at court when we've refused applications that aren't suitable. This one will go through the normal process, and it's down to the developers to show that it is a sustainable development, which I think personally, from what I've seen, would be rather difficult. But we have to get all the statutory consultees to respond, see what they say. It'd be interesting what highways have to say, because they're already saying that basically development in any part of Swale to the level that's required for a local plan would be runs into transport problems that are virtually impossible to solve. So, as with any application that comes through, you can say we should have a local plan in place, but if we have a local plan in place, that would mean that we'd have allocated 11,000 houses. You might be happy with 11,000 houses in Swale, but I can't see how you can distribute 11,000 houses across our borough. It doesn't put unacceptable strains on the infrastructure. So each application will have to show how it will not put that sort of strain on the infrastructure.
Councillor Hampshire, is it on the same point?
I tell you what Councillor Baldwin was saying, but there has to be some acceptance that when there was a local plan that was enacted, there was a degree of protection. There are lots of examples of development coming forward which were rightfully able to be defended for refusal because it lied outside the local plan. The fact that the council doesn't have a local plan and it isn't being developed, that degree of protection has been removed. Now, I don't think anyone here wants to see 11,000 pages built without the infrastructure and the services to support it. Okay, don't think anyone's mentioned that, but I do feel it is in the interests of our communities to know what is going to come, where it's going to go, and safeguard the areas that haven't been allocated. Because I don't think we're in a situation at the moment.
Well, we're not in
I take on the point that you said about the drainage, isn't very well. I take on the point that you said, Councillor Farmer, that was tonight. I mean, the bottom of when the hill at A Street as you come up to the 18th line, I mean, that used to, it's got considerably worse now. And how coming off a dual carriage track 70 miles an hour into a 30-mile, 60-mile rail road is so on a bend. I don't know. So I really do think there needs to be some sort of joint up action and petitioning of KCC and the Transport Board, which I think you are a member of, Councillor Board, of making sure that the drains are cleared. Because if the drains are cleared, it will actually prevent some issues of the problem.
Really, Chair.
Yeah.
Two rather naive points that need to be addressed a bit. One is the idea that the local plan gave us protection really is a bit of a misnomer. There were already expectations of windfall. It's, as I say, it fell out of factors within less than 18 months. So that gave no protection. There had to be development on sites that weren't allocated to make up the numbers of the houses that weren't being delivered by the local plan. Partly because highways, national highways, wouldn't allow us to build out some of them. So it didn't give us any protection. What it did was it gave developers land that they could bank And then they started coming for different sites without having to worry about building at the sites they'd already got. So it actually was a plan that put us in a worse position. Now, we've heard different stories from the government. I think it's right that we wait to see if they do indeed get rid of targets or indeed lower our housing numbers. And if you know, the numbers go down and we have to build less, I think that would be a much better plan than if we put one in place now with a full 11,000. You won't get a local plan through at the moment with less than 11,000. We can keep hearing about how, you know, it's a folly to delay, but there's very few sites are being put forward by the opposition as to where they would like housing. Some of them are saying it shouldn't be going in Faversham, are saying it shouldn't go on the Isle of Sheffy. I don't hear many of them saying it shouldn't go in Sittingbourne. So it's easy to say, oh, we won't have it here, there or anywhere. But at the same time saying, oh, we should have a local plan of 11,000 houses or possibly more. So I think that is a bit of a red herring. On the drainage issue, so the suggestion the Joint Transport Board should be sorting it out. And indeed, Councillor White's a member of the Joint Transport Board, has been for a long time, and I'm sure he will know, and agree with me, that there isn't actually a lot that Joint Transport Boards achieve. Certainly cannot give money to KCC to suggest that they can do some more drainage clearing. KCC, with its limited funds, clears drains on a basis that it can afford. Is there enough money in there to do the drainage? No, there isn't. Is there enough money in the forthcoming budget to improve the situation? No. But there isn't enough money being made available to councils to do this sort of work. So after 12 years of Tory austerity, we're pretty much bankrupt.
Councillor Wright.
Tory austerity. Yeah. I'm not going to go political. It's Joint Transportation Board, it is an advisory board. It can only advise the cabinet member of ACC, and he makes the decision, and he can either listen to us or not listen to us. As regards sustainable drainage, that is something that can be influenced by SBC and the local plan, if it had a local plan, because sustainable drainage, urban drainage, and a lot of our drains, particularly in rural areas, are of that ilk, where it goes into a drain with hardcore, it naturally soaks away. But the difficulty with urban sustainable drainage like that, which you'll find in places like Eden Park in my division, and other new estates, is that after 20 years, the gravel gets clogged up with mud and it needs to be completely changed. So not particularly, and it also is not particularly good at the change in weather pattern. And I believe in November, certain places had their full months rainfall in about 3 hours, something stupid. Those drains aren't designed for that type of rainfall. People will have to take responsibility. As Farmer mentioned, Boxted Lane, actually it wouldn't take much for either the farmer or the landowner there to actually create a drain to actually drain that area away, so it didn't accumulate on the road. But you know, somebody else's land, isn't it? And when you're in the bottom of a hollow, and you're going to spend, you know, hundreds of probably thousands of pounds to create a big box to accumulate, to take in the water, that ain't going to happen. But there are simple solutions if you can work with landowners, and I'm sure Richard's trying to do that. My original question was around protection for these sites. All I would say is that the majority of councils up and down the country would prefer to have a plan to defend sites that aren't in the plan than not having a plan at all. And just going by principle, they would always say that having a plan gives you a great deal more protection. I know Mike's shaking his head, but it's a fact. Thank you.
We'll have to just try and wrap maybe this part of the discussion up. Do you just want maybe just last two comments on it and then
I think everyone
move
makes
on.
it up to, think to the balance of a pinball machine, where when you shake it, it comes to a standstill and stop. It gets tilted. Tilted balance doesn't mean that the planning permission will be granted. It is a rate that might be applied. What will stop application is if it isn't sustainable, etc., etc. And by putting up roads up and robust defences and arguments, that's what we should do. And many of council, since the government was in so disarray, and I think a lot of waiting for Boris to come back, might be a clear direction on these or whatever. But a lot of councils have stopped and their local plans purely because they don't know what's going to come forward. So I think we've made a sensible, logical approach. I think when people talk about the tilted balance, they need to look at it. There's lots of cases where there's Ladbrokes have lost even the condition review on what they were saying was the tilted balance should take paramount decision. And the judge said, no, the local development plan streams are the national law. And that's it. So when everyone says tilted balance, not a pinball machine, just a little bit of the weight that you want to find in a closed and close application.
Councillor Hunt, we'll just leave it after your.
I'm not going to say a lot on it, although I could do, but there's just one thing that the council board said there about that we can't do a lower number. Just the information, I think I haven't had a chance to look into it yet. Worthing Council just had their local plan adopted by an inspector who's 74% of their target they had. So they have done it, so it is possible. How they've done it, I don't know. Something I think as a council needs to look into that.
Yeah, I just like I could confirm, we were told that we couldn't do it, and then this came through, which kind of backed up the fact that I've been arguing for a long time we could do it.
Stand to your officers.
Yeah, but even so, even if we were to put one for a lower figure, the changes that are likely to come forward with Levelling Up Bill means that anything we do at the moment is likely to need to be repeated within 12 months. And for that reason, the expense of going out and doing another Constable 19, knowing that we'd have to do another one 12 months later, isn't worth it. That I think is also contributed to some of the councillors deciding to pause things.
Yeah, can we just,
Can I just get Mike to confirm?
no, can we move on? John?
Nothing to do with there being an election next
We can do.
election.
We think we've had thank you, both of you. That's enough. Thank you. We've had enough discussion on that point, so we'll move on. If there's any, I think Councillor Palmer, you had another issue.
Thing I'm getting.
Yeah.
A lot of films, non-existent, they feel the reduction pieces on. I know it's within. Maybe. Feeling that. Certain feeling. It's in.
Councillor. Just updated that. Yeah, so that's coming then on.
So I met with the chief inspector who was there and is now not. There was a bit, we're getting a new chief inspector. But what she was saying was that there is an issue because of the changes that they're doing. They've lost a lot of PCSOs. Some of them have actually gone on to become police officers, which is really positive. but they are aware of problems, and it's something that I've asked that we raise at the Community Safety Partnership also, but it may be that members wish to have a discussion here if the police would be willing to attend to talk about police resourcing for the rest of the
Councillor Hunt?
Thanks, it's a concern I raised with Steph Curtis a while ago, that we haven't had any updates. We used to have a good relationship with the police. We used to get a lot of updates, had briefings with them. We haven't had any for some time. We've had one that's virtual. I found out the other day that the Leeds has got a new PCSO. I wasn't even aware of it. It was only on an email that none of the residents were given the name. I've never heard of it. Steph did say that she was going to work on getting an update for us. Hopefully it's happening for the whole council rather than just here. But there's definitely a lot of information in it.
Morton?
Yeah, I think we've got a mechanism by which we can raise this. I don't think it requires the Western Area Committee to do it, because I don't think it's a Western Area problem. I think it's a problem across the borough, and we have a community safety partnership, and that's just the proper way. In fact, I believe we have our representative on the community safety partnership in the room, so can present our case for us. I don't see this as a Western Area Committee issue.
Councillor Escott, was your hand up? Did I see?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Any committee meeting that the council have been at last couple of years, I've complained about policing. The latest one we've had is asking the parish council to remove contact details from websites and from flyers and so on. And if you want to contact the police, get in touch with 101. Everyone knows what 101 is like. It's simple to get through. And as a result, parish councils are getting many, many more inquiries about all sorts of things. And if you say you must go to the police about this, they say, really waste of time. It really is quite a serious matter, particularly in rural areas.
Councillor Hampshire, and then we'll come to Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, you were saying meetings to be involved in parish council. I think the thing here is they're now not getting the backfill because people are leaving them. There's other reasons why they might be leaving them. They are having such a big area that they just can't get the coverage. So even though you've got, you know, a contact, as it were, it's just impossible for them to really do their job because the area is so large. And I do think that is very different for our, you know, committee area than an urban area, because, you know, trying to dealing with Albany, irate, Hartley, Newington, Upton, it's a bit different if you're dealing with Manston and Rainbow, you know, a bit more closely confined. But what I think would be interesting is to know kind of what impact the golden handshake having on recruiting and training. It's on the doorstep, and now if you go with John there, you get a golden handshake. And I think, you know, the chief inspector, you know, they are concerned about the loss, because it's not just the inability to get new recruits in. It's also now more attractive for those that are more experienced, that done their training in Kent, to actually go and move on to the next. That will have wider implications for crime more widely at higher levels. And I just wanted whether, you know, we're beginning to see a tangible impact of that decision that it's out.
Councillor Palmer?
I'm just going to clarify one representatives from the Community Safety Partnership and Councillor Steve Davey and Councillor James. Maybe that should be after the next consent.
So is there any action on that discussion that we want to move forward with? Councillor Waldock?
Yeah, I think a formal mention to our representatives that we are concerned about policing in the rural areas, that it is dropping off. I understand what Councillor Adcock's saying about removing the phone numbers, which is frustrating. The other problem was if people don't ring 101, it doesn't get recorded as an incident. So even though ringing 101 is not like ringing 999 and we're actually expecting any action, all you're doing effectively is ringing up so that they can put a reference number to them. But at least then you get a reference number, And if people are ringing up regularly about, crime in their area, it will at least push it up the league table of places they have to visit. But, it's just like everything. Yeah, we have not got enough police, we've not got enough local police. And we are finding a greater competition with London, not just for police, but it's the same for doctors, everything else. We attract people into the area from London. And then they still work in London, or they look to work in London because the London waiting gives them, an extra few thousand every year. And they can spend many jobs 2 or 3 days about a week at home, working from home. The London waiting issue is something I think needs to be challenged now. You don't need that extra money to work in London if you're not living in London or visiting London to work very often. And it just has made it even harder for places like Kent to get people to work there. Because you can live in Hampshire, you've got a job in Kent, we've got a job in London, it's the same job, you've got to go in 2 days a week, but one's got £8,000–9,000 extra to it. Doesn't take a lot to work out why people are just constantly working in London.
Yes, sorry, that's on.
Second proposal to send it
Yeah.
formally to the,
Councillor Hall and Councillor Davies. Yeah.
just as a commentary, of course, one of the side benefits of taking individuals' phone numbers off flyers and everything is they are entitled to not be at work. And if their number's on every flyer, they get phoned all the time. And as Councillor Baldock says, it doesn't get problems.
So if we could kind of have a summary of perhaps the points that we've discussed, and then we can pass those over to Councillor Hall and Councillor Davies to raise on our behalf. Councillor Palmer, were you going to?
No, I was just going to say about people finding the PCS open back up. I know some incidents that have heard people reported the PCS open. When they challenged it, they've come back and said, we have no evidence. So it hasn't gone through the system. So my advice would be emergencies is 101.
Thank you very much. Is there any other points to raise on that before we move on? No, so we'll move on then to agenda item 8, which was, sorry, yes.
Sorry, that was just some information. I'm jumping back. I wanted
Yeah.
to check I was thinking right before I said anything. On the section 106, halfway egg farm. No, it's listed as probably not allowed out, but actually intended to. Possibly why it says, because KCC may have looked at it, not really, but not actually in Western area either. It is only one.
Possibly O2.1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just to let you know, if there was any challenge of trying to get money back home, we could.
Okay, thank you for that. It's the egg farm, halfway egg farm. In a funny position. So moving on to agenda item 8, what I was going to do for that one, we've got 2 items to discuss, which were the assisting homeowners with energy costs and then the pond wardens. I was going to take the pond wardens one first because it seems a bit logical, because then if we allocate to that, then we'll know what we have left to potentially allocate with the funding for the alternative fuel. So Councillor Baldock, do you want to introduce that one first?
Yeah, I think we all enjoyed the talk from Pond last time, and it was really positive. It is something that it would be nice to encourage the greater take up on. He explained a bit about what they have needs for, but this is a small amount that would help assist the pond wardens. I think we just need to encourage councils and local groups with ponds find out about this scheme, appoint their own pond wardens, and get that extra bit of support for the ponds, because we do have quite a few ponds in the area. They are important for, well, we heard, how important they are. I think it would be good to give that support and try and encourage Great, take off.
That's all. So,
Second the proposal and see no reason to continue the debate.
everyone in agreement? Perfect. Okay, so we can allocate, that was £292.87 to that, to the fund board and proposal. So the second one was the, something again that was raised last meeting, so assisting homeowners with energy costs, those that weren't going to benefit from the, all of the provision already put in place. Just want to say a big thank you to Janet and the other officers who worked to put this together, because it wasn't that straightforward. There wasn't a local charity that would kind of meet the criteria that we were looking for, really. So what we have put together, hopefully you've had a chance to have a look through it, is a proposal which is going to allocate the funds to the Swale Borough Council Fuel and Water Home Advisor Service via the charity Children and Families, so that the advisor can then provide these energy efficient packs to households. And then that way we can allocate specifically to the Western Area committees of Western Area, so we know that that funding is going to go to those residents. And obviously you can see the outline there about in terms of how we publicise that, and what we really need, if we agree that, is maybe perhaps some suggestions about locations where this could be handed out, rather than it necessarily being Swale CBS office, somewhere a bit more local to the areas. So Councillor Woodson, I saw your hand up first.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I echo your praise for the officers who put this together? I think it's a fantastic scheme. I'm very supportive. My one concern, these are £50 boxes of help, which I think is tremendous, but let's not wrap 9 pages of A4 bureaucracy around it. I appreciate we have an audit trail that we have to demonstrate, and we have to show good and proper spending of public money. But if people have to fill in a form that goes to loads and loads of pages, the people who did struggle with things are the people we want to help. And I think we need to cut the bureaucracy and get this money and these packs out as quickly as we can.
I'll second that.
Councillor Hampton.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, I think, it's a good project. We've got limited resources. I think we can do to help, and at this time, I think it's well worth supporting. The only couple of comments I have is we have, actually, I'm not trustee, so that's fine. So we have the Systems Advice Bureau actually operating over the whole of the council offices, and I don't know whether there's an opportunity, or if people are coming in with certain issues that tend to be interlinked, whether if there are a list of people that came from the Western Area that can be pointed or signposted as, there's this other package of help. By that means when they go there. But equally, and now I will have to declare an interest, I'm the trustee and chairman of the charity that operates within Bolton and Great Park. It's primarily in the Bolton area. And we would be able to help, but only within a restricted area of Bolton. So we couldn't do the whole of the Western area, but we could do people within Bolton. And it's likely from getting people presenting themselves in that area and again the council might want to, reach out. I know in minutes of days on by, at Christmas time, we need to get that up, for example, so it would meet the objectives. And I would argue that if it meets the objectives of my charity, probably meets a much larger charity within the Bolton area, it's now in Barrow Trust, which goes much farther.
Councillor Baldock.
This is advisor giving advice. I wonder therefore if it would be possible to have, I'm not sure, but have the advisor speaking in, have a drop-in centres in different parts of each parish. They could come along, they give advice on mass to a group of people and hand backs out. So it'd be like, similar to what some places did with the COVID packs. You'd have, Saturday morning. Do you want help with your energy bills? Come along. The advisor gives a half-hour talk and hand you back out. And the other option would be involving the parishes and possibly the Meads community hall. I think there needs to be a place where people can collect them rather than someone having, I think someone having the stores and handing them out is going to be tricky. But it is quite hard to work out.
Yeah, I agree with councillor Baldock there. I mean, if you're looking to go to various different organisations, CBS or even this advice, they would have to be trained in how to deliver the package and how to give these people that want the advice good advice. So there will be training involved in that. And I know that council going to cut back on the amount of grants being given out to these like CBS and civil advice. So they're struggling as well. But having one central point where packs could be distributed out and then told physically how to use them, rather than giving them a box with the instructions and thinking that it's going to work perfectly. I think it's going to be more cost effective, I think, because one maybe two places where we can have these being distributed and people taught how to use them. Because that's the main thing, teaching them how to use them and make them effective.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't seen anywhere in the pack how much we've got left now. We spent £290. Because a £50 pack, £1,000 gets you 20 packs. So how much have we got?
4,532 and 13p.
Right, so we've got about 81 or 82 packs. So, you know, if you do a village at a time, you'll probably give out most of the packs at the first village and maybe not get any further. Sorry.
Just one small point, because the packs are tailor-made, 50 is an average, so some might be less, some might be a bit more.
I understood that, thank you.
That's the one.
If that is the case, we haven't got that many to actually go. Can the your want to really, can you not just get them out to people that we are aware of? Just depends, I know it's time for the officers to go out, but just to get them out to where they need to go. If you know people, you just take them around to the house and give it to them. Even a day or so, you can get them.
Don't believe they do house visits, but they talk to them over the phone and then arrange how they will get the packs to them.
So if that's the case, if it is just, it could be a phone call to give them your cards. You need to get them out. There's even, especially got parish councils and ourselves, just tell us who they've got to go to. We just get them out.
Yeah, do it fine. Yeah.
I'm sure there's parish councils. There's anybody in the road.
Yeah, if they're not able to collect them,
Get that
they
bit.
can do that bit. Yeah.
I would just make sure that however we set it up, the advice comes before the pack. Because the advice is the key thing.
Yeah.
Pack is great, but actually there's no point in having radiator reflectors if people are not putting their radiators on and using, there was a very large explosion in Ashford last year. And the cause of that was someone having an old gas fire with bottled gas. Not because they just thought it was probably cheaper than putting the heating on, and it exploded and people had life-changing injuries. So that discussion is so whichever way we do it, the discussion has to, the good and bad comes after the discussion. That's what
I mean, from what I'm seeing, is there is a portal, say, that you go to and then the advisor, the advice is that gets distributed, and I think that's great. But I also think you're relying on someone to make that step as well, when they are already really making steps for community. And so I think it would be helpful if the Borough Council approaches the CAB to make their advisor somewhere and they can signpost that they don't lose out, because the thing is, when someone wants help, they go to one organisation site, they don't necessarily then all go to all the various ones. They go to one and they hope that that's a one-stop shop and then get the relevant signposts. I think there's a missed opportunity here, but there would be people generally in need that wouldn't necessarily know this because they go out onto that organisation. And given that they kind of operate in our since I know you've not that haven't been for a little while, I think that would be good to make them aware. But equally, I think there are charities that operate within the Western area that can provide help, even if the help package has been fully utilised. And it's making the advisor aware that there are these other sources of help. That I mentioned, you know, the Bio Trust, the trustee, the charity that I am is Bolton United Charities, and that's where I had to declare an interest. I'm sure there are many other small charities that operate within the Western area that if someone that was going through this link had the call with the advisor, if the packs had all been fully utilised, they could, you know, be told, well, have you thought about approaching them this way?
Is there a way we can? That?
Yeah, I'm sure, yes, yeah, I mean, and if you have ideas, if you contact me, I
Put
can
a little together.
I can pass that on to the advisor.
Yes, so if we do that, then if we signpost it with citizens' advice so that they know that that is a possibility, and then if members generally, and obviously parish councillors as well, any charities that you're aware of that would kind of feed into this agenda, you can feed that to Janet, and then we can make sure that our advisors has got that list as well. I have seen Councillor Ward, go to Councillor Horton, and I'll come to you.
Very much, just a quick one. Can I assume that there's no internal costing associated with the advisor? So the money we've got is to remove tax.
Yeah, a couple of things. First, this advice is already in place, already giving this advice out, already giving packs out. So what are we actually paying for if it's already doing it? What we need to be doing is getting people in our area aware of the service and applying these packs that they can get anyway, even if we don't give them the money, they still got it. Yeah, the packs are still there unless we're going to buy some extra packs. I have trouble, I think there might be trouble asking the citizens' advice just to point people in the Western area committee to these services. They wouldn't want to do that. They wouldn't want us to be checking all the time whether or not we're in our area. And secondly,
Service and policy of this.
I
think something.
no, I don't think we're doing it.
Give advice to anybody,
Yeah,
irrespective of where they are.
Yeah, that's not what I was making, I mean, I just been with the board for about 9 years. And the Citizens Advice Bureau can have a look where it can come from, they know the areas. So if there were particular outreaches going on in an area that they may be entitled to the circumstances they successfully, they would be more than happy to help because they do that anyway. You don't go to the Citizens Advice and not know that other organisations that may help you, they will signpost you. But the Citizens Advice does not know that there is a support there, then there's a missed opportunity for it. So I'm not saying that Citizens Advice do the advisory. What I'm saying is, if someone from the Western area needs to do whatever reason, it could be debt issues, it could be other issues. They tend to be multifaceted. That if they knew that there was this help, an organisation available, specifically for where they live, because they would know that information anyway, then they should be made aware of it. The maximum is the opportunity of getting the help out to those in need.
Councillor Palmer?
That's right, and it's going on what Andrew said, really maximise it, and I think as board members, as council members, you sometimes you're going out there, local, and that really passes information on, taking the first and not the second. So I would say like a local authority thing, if we all could take part in the responsibility, and it might be just achievement in a carry forward, where someone says, I'm struggling to keep warm, I'm finding it awkward to keep warm, and perhaps someone there could say, wow, I am as the fuel advisor happening.
Just I suppose revisiting the point that Councillor Baldock made there. So the advisor is in place, but that service will have a funding. So there will be a capacity for it, won't there? So by us allocating extra funding specifically for the Western area, that's allowing them extra leeway that they can do.
One of the, when we were discussing this and looking at all the different options, one of the questions we asked the advisor was what would be really useful for you working within the Western area, and this was something that she said would be useful to have money to purchase more packs. So it isn't something that we said, well, we will do this. This has come from the advisor. She has said herself that it would be useful to purchase more packs, which could then be used for this.
Would that be specifically used for Western area?
Yes,
They should actually do that.
Yeah,
Oh, fair enough.
yeah,
Okay.
she did. We made that quite clear, and she said that was possible.
Okay then, so we've got some,
Who applies the criteria? How do we know who's going to get the right people are going to get the right acts? Because obviously there's going to be.
The few.
Yeah.
The few speaks to them and determines what their needs are.
So they have to go contact the field advisor first.
Yeah,
And
that's-
then they can hire field advisor to go to. Oh, so I wasn't
Yeah,
aware.
yeah.
Thank you.
So I think we've got a few obviously action points there in terms of signposting and us as members being involved in kind of facilitating it. Yes, councillor.
How people know that. I was at the last meeting. Use oil and things like that. Get the oil in them. How do we get to the receiver to tell them?
Part of the proposal here is about the Swale Borough Council communication teams making the message out to residents. So that and sharing that part as well.
Because the parish council,
Yeah, definitely.
we got the information.
So are we happy then if I propose that £4,532.13 that we've got left, if we allocate that to the? Yeah, and everyone agree? Good, okay. So then, moving on to item 9, we don't have any matters that have been referred to us by service committees. We have discussed one item to refer back to service committee, haven't we? So we've got that.
Yes.
Is there anything else anyone would like to refer back? Back from what we've discussed? Notifies a night, thank you. Okay then, that is the meeting closed. We've got, our next meeting is slightly early. It's Thursday, the 16th of February, 2022, 7 PM. It's been brought forward slightly because of the pre-election period, so the meeting's slightly earlier than we would have done, which would have been March. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we did. Well,